G'day, welcome to Todd's Kitchen. Earlier on I made bread in an air fryer. Now that's incredibly simple, but I'm going to do a little bit of a spin on it today, and I know that you'll love it. So join me today as I make my version of dinner rolls in an air fryer. Okay, so we're going to start this off with the normal way of making bread, and that's our milk and yeast. So obviously into a bowl, the first ingredient is going to be some milk, and this is at room temperature. So just make sure it's not cold. And then to that I'm going to add 1 standard packet, which also equals 2 1/4 teaspoons of instant yeast. And we're just going to let that sit like that for about 5 to 10 minutes, just for the yeast to soak up the milk, which will also activate the yeast. And that's what helps gives that bread that nice fluffy texture. Okay, so our yeast is completely activated, so now we add the rest of the ingredients. So I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of melted butter, followed by 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, 2 eggs, and 3 cups of regular plain flour. Okay, so at this point you'd mix it through. Now you can use a normal bowl and then just knead it, which is basically just folding it in on itself for about 6-7 minutes. And that way you work all the ingredients in. So you can do it by hand, or you can do it the lazy way, which I prefer personally, because it just makes life so much easier. I'm going to use a dough hook on my stand mixer. So it does the same thing, and it takes about the same time. So I'm going to knead this for about 7 minutes. And in 7 minutes, we're going to have a lovely dough ball. Now, if you find that the dough ball hasn't come together properly, if it's too dry, just add a little bit of milk. You'd be surprised what just a little bit of milk will do. It'll bring that dough ball together. But if it's too wet, then just add a little bit of flour, but only do a small amount at a time. Okay, so as you can see, it's not exactly a dough ball just yet. It seems a little bit wet. So I'm just going to add just a small amount of flour, a little bit at a time, just till everything comes off the bowl and it just forms one big dough ball. Okay, as you can see now, it is now coming off the sides and it's just starting to form into a ball now. So it's not too wet, it's not too dry. But remember, just don't add too much at once, just a little bit at a time. And once you've reached the desired consistency, just knead it away for 7 minutes. Okay, so it's been kneading away for 7 minutes, so we're just going to turn off our machine, or stop kneading if you're doing it by hand. Just going to take it off the hook. And at this point we're just going to place a tea towel on top, so it keeps all the fresh air from getting in, plus it also keeps it nice and dark. And we're going to leave it to proof for about half an hour, and that time it should almost double in size. And the reason we didn't do this on the slow cooker is because we are cooking this in an air fryer and it will be a lot faster. So it had a chance to proof itself in the slow cooker, but with the air fryer, which is much faster, you really need that extra time for it to proof before you start cooking. Okay, so it's been about half an hour, and as you can see, it has risen nicely. So right now it's full of air, so basically we just want to get in there, sort of punch it down. We're going to get all that excess air out. Okay, so I've got a chopping board here and I'm just lightly spreading some flour to prevent sticking. So we're just going to place our dough onto our chopping board and try and make it as uniform as possible, and with a knife we're going to cut it into 16 individual sections. So do it this way you get the exact size for every one. So we're just going to cut it exactly as so. So we have our 8 sections there. And now we just go halves again, which will give us 16. Okay, so next I've got an air fryer basket. Now what I've done is I've just lined the base of it with some non-stick parchment paper. That'll just prevent it from sticking. And as an extra precaution, I'm going to use some cook and spray oil. So just give it a good grease on the paper itself and just inside. And we're just simply going to grab one at a time, roll them into a ball, and just place it into our air fryer basket. Now you should have enough room to do 2 batches. So hopefully we should be able to fit in 8. Some people have larger air fryers, some people have small. So honestly, it just comes down to the size of the air fryer. It won't affect anything else. Just depends whether you do 2 runs or 3 runs, or for those people with the larger ones, 1 run. But for mine, I'm going to have to do 2 runs. This is the large one, but there's actually an extra large version, or extra large from what I've seen. Okay, so we are going to have to proof these rolls a second time, which is normal for bread, and because we are cooking them pretty fast. Now normally, you just honestly just cover them with some paper towel, a tea towel, or even some Glad wrap, or cling wrap. But honestly, easiest way to do it is just stick it in your air fryer. Obviously don't turn the air fryer on, but they'll prove perfectly fine inside the air fryer turned off. And we'll leave it in there for about half an hour, and in that time they'll increase in size. Okay, so it's been about half an hour, and as you can see, they've proofed up nicely. They've all doubled in size, and we don't want to touch them, but they're nice and fluffy. Okay, so we're going to set it to 160 degrees Celsius, which is 320 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to cook them away for 15 minutes until they're just nice and brown. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes, time has just gone off. Oh, and look at those, perfectly cooked dinner rolls. And just quickly, while they're still warm, we're just going to give them a quick glaze. And I'm just got some melted butter here, so just give them a quick but a light brushing with some butter. Just makes them look that little bit much better. And there we have our delicious dinner rolls, and look at how they just pull apart so simply, so easily. Look at that. So these are perfect to have with dinner, or as a treat after lunch, for example. And of course, if you time them just right, where they're just done and ready for after dinner, you can get that melted butter consistency on your rolls. And just look how that butter has already started to melt in. That's the absolute deliciousness of freshly baked dinner rolls. You just can't get that from the shops. So the best thing is, you know exactly what's in it. They're 100% fresh, and they're guaranteed warm. They're not going to have that reheated microwave feel, so you can get that melted butter taste. And making them in an air fryer makes it super simple and easy. And I can guarantee when you use an air fryer and you make them at home, they're going to taste simply delish.